Hey there, back in December for Christmas, you gave me a gift certificate to Sweetwater, and I said I would let you know what I got. And this is probably a little much, but this is a video about the module that I purchased with the gift certificate that you gave me. This is the 2HP random module. It, like the name implies, generates random voltages. So let's get it back in its case, and we'll just take a very quick tour of what it actually does. Okay, so hopefully by the miracle of time-lapse, that went really quickly. So, random module has two modes. There's internal clock, and right now that's the mode we're on. So it's got an actual clock that's generating pulses at a regular interval. This controls the rate of it. You can see as I turn it up, it gets faster. So it's so fast you can't see the individual pulses, and it'll go pretty slow. But every time a pulse is generated here, it generates random voltages in these two outputs. This one is stepped, so when it's cycling through random values constantly, but when that happens, it holds one until the next clock. So it's constantly stepping through. This one is smooth, so it's accepting random values, but it is slewing between them. So instead of snapping directly to the next value here, it sort of slides. So let's hear what that sounds like. What this is good for, in particular down here, is sort of the classic 60s B-movie sci-fi computer sound of just stepped random voltages. So what we're going to do is take this guy here, so here we have an oscillator that's generating tone, except it's not. Why are you not? Okay, now that we've got the module back in its case, and I've patched a couple things over here, let's go over what it does. There's two modes, internal and external. Start with internal. Internal, it's running off its internal clock, which you can see here. That is the speed of the clock. And this knob here changes the speed. So you can see that at maximum speed, it's pretty fast. But every time it generates a new pulse at the clock, it does two things. At this random quantized output, it generates a fixed voltage that just stays at that voltage until it sees the next clock. And it does that based on the speed here. There's an attenuator that will determine the range of random values there. So what this does is basically sort of the classic sample and hold effect that you've heard in like 60s sci-fi movies. When there's a computer, it does this effect. So let's see if we can hear that. Right now I should have an oscillator going here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these random values out of this and assign it to the pitch input of the oscillator. So there you go. We are in a supercomputer in a sci-fi movie where people are wearing spandex. Okay, so that's great and all, but what does it do besides that? Because unless you want to do that exact sound constantly, it's kind of boring. So first thing we can do is further quantize these values, because right now it is just selecting completely random voltages. They're not musical. They're not even tempered to an even scale. So what we can do is assign it to what we call a quantizer, which is going to restrict it to musically relevant values. So we run that into suddenly we have something that makes a little more sense. Just major try it. Which is kind of fun. What else can we do with this? So this other output here generates, instead of stepped voltages, which is what we're hearing here, it goes to one voltage and stays. This generates smooth voltage, which will sort of ramp up and down. It's doing the same thing as the other output, but instead of snapping immediately to the new value, it slews to that value. So if the value is above the old value, it gradually increases to the new value. If the value is below, it gradually decreases. So even though we've got this nice sonorous thing going, let's hear what smooth voltage sounds like. You can see it's either climbing or falling. You see where it's random, so the rate of ascent and descent is fairly fixed. So if it picks multiple values above the old value, it'll just keep ascending. Same thing with descending. So it's sort of more of a low frequency oscillation. Essentially, it's not as random. So what we can do, however, is, for instance, assign that to that parameter. So now it's changing the timbre a little bit. So what else? We've got one more output where it's sending out these gates. So right now our timbre is just sort of unarticulated. It's just playing notes and switching them. There's not a beginning or end to the note. So what we can do is use this to create what we call articulation. This voltage controlled amplifier to actually articulate the notes. Which is all well and good. From there you can actually further process things. For instance, what's generating our attack decay envelope has a parameter that determines decay. When decay is all the way open, it's just doing what it does before. When it's really short, the decay cuts right off. So what we could do is split this random signal here. And run that into the decay parameter. Now, it's fairly broad range of parameters here. You can hear that So what we actually want to do is constrain those values a little bit, which this module will let you do. So now the articulations are fairly close together. They were. So what you get is just a subtle amount of random that would, for instance, mimic the articulation of a real instrument, where if you try to play a real instrument, you're never going to get the exact same articulation every time. So what is a little bit too randomy for me. So there we just have a subtle little bit difference in the decay now. Again, this is all just being generated by this. So there's, obviously I could program this without all these random elements, but this is giving me the ability to vary this one little thing a little bit. Another thing we can do there is, if I can get this multi-cable off, cable hanger, we take our original quantized values and assign it to another value here. So literally, with just this module and a little help from this one and a sound source, VCA, and reverb, I've kind of got something musical going. And again, because the quantizer is playable, just kind of jam around with it a little bit. Of course, everything on here that has an input can be affected by this module, so this just sort of gives you an idea of the stuff that this little tiny little thing adds to this whole system of just being able to make things a little more musical by making them less consistent. So that's what this does. I could honestly spend all day messing with this, but I just wanted to make a short video to say thanks, and here's what I did with the gift certificate. So hope you enjoyed it. Talk to you soon. Bye.